Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we have a really interesting one that might not seem that interesting on the face of it. We are playing Mono-Red Burn, which is kind of a deck that's been a bit of a joke in Legacy for a while. Once upon a time it was like the entry-level budget deck that people started off with and then they decided this is bad and they played other stuff. And for a long time Burn hasn't been a thing really. It's just not been a competitive deck. However, this new version I've seen here recently 5-0'd a league, and it's got some interesting tech that's something I've been thinking about for a while with the deck, and I'm curious to see how it plays out. So the main part of this tech is Dragon's Rage Channeler, right? So if you're unfamiliar with Burn, the idea is you point burn spells at your opponent's face, they die. It's just a pure aggro burn deck, right? But Dragon's Rage Channeler is an interesting one because this is a reliable, repeatable source of damage that does good damage and also fixes your draws. And because we get to fix our draws, it means that we're more likely to find those last points of burn that we've been looking for. Now, to facilitate this, we are playing some interesting things like Urza's Bauble and Mishra's Bauble, which do not deal any damage to your opponent. They just give you another draw. However, what is interesting about these is burn decks have often wanted to run fetches for things like Searing Blaze in the sideboard, but haven't necessarily had that many good reasons to do so. The Baubles, not only do they make our channeler better, but they give us the ability to have a fetch land. We can, with the Mishra's Bauble at least, we can scry the top card of our library away by cracking our fetch after seeing what's on top and whether or not we want to draw it. So that makes a lot of sense. The Urza's Bauble makes a little bit less sense. It's just a way of enabling our Dragon's Rage Channeler. But again, these are things of prowess, and we now have 8 prowess creatures in our deck with the Monastery Swiftspear and the Dragon's Rage Channeler. So the whole idea is we can play a turn 1 guy and then immediately get a Mishra's Bauble or Urza's Bauble trigger off. So we're attacking for 2 on turn 1, or we're getting a nice scry and leveling up our Dragon's Rage Channeler. So it seems quite potent to me. This build also has 4 Barbarian Ring, which is quite a lot, and I'm excited to see how that plays out. I've been trying to build Burn for a while for the channel because a few people have asked for it in the comments, and I just couldn't really find a build that worked for me. And I think, well, I did get to Dragon's Rage Channeler, Mishra's Bauble, Barbarian Ring, which is most of what this deck is doing right, to be fair. But I never quite felt happy with it enough to actually jam it into some leagues. However, this deck, like I said, 5-0 league, so it clearly has the ability to win games, so I'm excited to see how it pans out. Fetch land wise, we have 4 fetch lands here, 1 fetch land here, 2 up here. So we've got quite a lot of fetch lands, more so than we have mountains, but we don't really want to be drawing that many mountains at the end of the day anyway. So if we end up with that many lands, we're probably losing anyway, regardless of whether or not they have anything to fetch. The one thing about the mountain count here that might come back to bite us though is 5 mountains plus 4 Fireblasts. That might prove a little bit challenging to cast, but then again, the whole idea is that we can sometimes throw cards away using our Channeler and scrying them away using our Mishra's Bauble plus fetch land combination. Aside from that, it's pretty much what you'd expect really. A bunch of 1-mana burn spells, a bunch of slightly more expensive burn spells. Skewer the Critics often is just going to be a 1-mana burn spell, but sometimes it won't be. And we have these Price of Progress, which seem pretty good in the meta right now. Lots of people playing lots of different lands. And the Fireblast is a 0-mana 4 damage thing to finish off your opponent. Our other creature, of course, is Goblin Guide, which 1 mana, 2 damage. Fine. The drawback sometimes does come up and is a bit annoying. Gives your opponent the ability to draw multiple cards by stacking their deck with Ponders and Brainstorms. But hopefully, if they're doing that a bit, then we can get in underneath them and aggro them out. So there's actually a lot of interesting stuff in this deck, even though Burn is not exactly famous for being interesting. Sideboard wise, let's have a look what we've got here. We have 3 Mindbreak Traps. So we are trying to clock our opponent in the first few turns of the game. Mindbreak Trap is for the decks that will beat that. So Storm decks and such like. Leyline on the Void, again, stuff like Reanimator can beat our clock quite easily, so we need to board in something that will smash them. Against creature decks, we have Searing Blaze to make sure our little creatures can get through. This is just a great tempo play. It's 3 damage to a creature, 3 damage to their face. That's an incredible tempo swing in our direction when we're also attacking with guys. Then we have these Alpine Moons. So lands your opponent's control with a chosen name, lose all land types and abilities they gain, tap, add 1 mana of any colour. So what this is mainly for is things like Urza Saga, because one of the problems with burn decks since Urza Saga came out is they play Urza Saga, they make some constructs, they stick a Shadow Spear on it, and then their life total's fine, and we never really get anywhere. Now, this also has other uses against things like Glacial Chasm, perhaps. I'm sure we'll find some other uses for it along the way, but those are the main things we're looking for here. Urza Saga is somewhat awkward for us at times. And that's pretty much it from the deck. So this deck was piloted to a 5-0 finish in our league by King of All You See. I'm excited to get into it. So let's play some Legacy with Burn. But before that, it's an obligatory plug. Check out the Patreon linked in the description. Why not join the Discord as well? And just like and subscribe is really important to help the channel out too. Okay, let's play some Burn. We're into round 1 and we're on the play. Our hand is interesting. I would actually like another land, but I think we're fine here. We're going to keep this. Wasteland would be pretty annoying, but a single land is going to be really handy for us. So I think we start off with the Goblin Guide here. Let's get at them. So we can actually play a pretty serviceable aggro game here because we have lots of repeatable source of damage. Brazen Borrower, okay. That's not really going to be relevant in this game, I don't think. Now it's our opponent's turn. A Tundra. And pass. This is probably going to be for a Source of Plowshares on our Goblin Guide. We will play another Goblin Guide. Our strategy here is very simple. Make creatures, turn them sideways. A Misty Rainforest and a Step Through. Okay, so we're looking at a Cephalid Breakfast deck, which means they can clock us with their combo. And we don't have any way of disrupting their combo right now. There's the Misty Rainforest. We weirdly only have burn spells that go to the face here. I would have loved to have drawn a Mountain last turn. So there's Fireblast. A Lightning Bolt, that does disrupt the combo. Do we have to hold it up? I think we probably do. Go to attacks. There's a Thassa's Oracle into their hand. Oh, wow, not into their hand, it's going to be on top of their library. So, because they're doing the shuffle here. So they might hit another land, they keep the Thassa's Oracle. Okay, so we know they're drawing the Narcomoeba. They're always going to shuffle off the top because of the Step Through anyway. Right, so now we're going to see the Step Through, which is going to find them most likely a Cephalid Illusionist. There it is. So we have one Lightning Bolt to interfere with what our opponent's doing. Right, there's an Urza Saga. They can combo this turn if they have the Nomads or the Shuko. There's the Illusionist. There's the Nomads. So we have to Lightning Bolt this guy in response. If they have a counterspell here, we lose the game. Okay, we do not lose the game. That's exciting. Can we draw a mountain? Doesn't look like we're going to draw any mountains here. So we have some choices about what we're deploying here. Do want to get in this Swiftspear right now. So if they block here, they take 2, and that puts them to 7. If we play the Swiftspear first, we get 1 point of damage, but then we have to worry about the Rift Bolt being a thing that doesn't necessarily go off immediately. We can get 4 damage off this Price of Progress if we draw it next turn. I think we're supposed to attack here and see what's on top of our opponent's library. I'm pretty sure we just want to put the Rift Bolt into Suspend. A Force of Will, okay, and it's the same Force of Will on top we don't have 2. So let's see what they have here. I think they just have another Cephalid Illusionist, to be honest. But if they block here, it means they don't. Alright, so they don't. So they try and preserve their life total. That's exciting. Let's suspend this for a red. So we have lethal damage coming in next turn. They can make a Saga token, but that isn't enough to stop them. So to stop our creatures here. Cephalid Illusionist. Do they have another... Okay, they had the combo sewn up with 2 parts of each side. That's pretty unfortunate for us. And they've got a Force of Will to back it all up with. We're going to let them mill their deck so we can see which version they're on. And then we'll concede. If you're unfamiliar with the Cephalid Breakfast combo, essentially the Nomads targets the Illusionist over and over again, each time milling 3 cards until they put a load of Narcomoebas into the graveyard, which jump into play, which then sacrifice to Dread Return to bring back Thassa's Oracle while they have no cards in their graveyard, so they get to win the game. Sorry, when they have no cards in their library. Alright, so we're on a Staff of Storyteller build here with Retrofitter's Foundry. Feels like we are on the Boston Roll build that he won the big event, the big paper event with a few weeks back. I'm just trying to see if there's any other little bits and pieces. I can't see any black sources. Sometimes they run enough black sources to hard cast a Dread Return. Okay, so now we'll concede. Now we've seen the whole deck here. Yep, pretty standard. Alright, Cephalid Breakfast. Searing Blaze is useful here. Now the problem with Burn is we don't want to overboard. So Searing Blaze is probably going to be more useful than Skewer the Critics. And one of the things I said about Fireblast has come true already, which is a bit awkward. So I think we're going to trim one of those. Trim a Rift Bolt, and I think we'll probably lose a second Rift Bolt here, or maybe it should be a Price of Progress. Like that. And now, if you want these Leylines to slow their combo down, or do you want to try and burn their creatures, which way are we going to tackle their combo? The problem with boarding in Leylines is that they are so bad if you draw them, right? And we can't really afford to have these bad draws. Now, we do have the whole Mishra's Bauble Fetchland plus Dragon's Rage Channeler to try and keep the top of our library live. But I don't really think I want these Leylines. We should be able to race them reasonably well. Maybe on the draw, we might want them because the clock is probably on our favour on the play, and if we have any lightning bolts. No lands though. Now we have too many lands. But I think we will keep this and bin off one of these. Is it mountain or is it... Yeah, I think we just bin off the mountain here. Our life total is probably not the relevant thing here. We want more cards in our graveyard for the purposes of threshold on Barbarian Ring. So this goes and gets us a mountain. Deploy the Swiftspear. Go to tax. So I think we were relatively unlucky to lose the first game because our opponent did have to have 2 copies of their combo by turn 4 of both parts of their combo in order to live that way. Okay, a Mystic Sanctuary, an Arid Mesa. We are just attacking for 1 here. This is part of the problem of these Searing Blazes, but it should mean that we can keep our opponent's creatures at bay quite effectively. Question is, how efficient do we have to be with our burn spells? Do we have to play them on our turn to make sure that they give ourselves +1 on the prowess, or do we have to play on our opponent's turn so we might be able to cast 2 in a turn cycle? Difficult to know. Alright, so we have a Goblin guy, so at least have a play to make here. Get ourselves in with some damage. An island has entered their hand. Alright. Swords to Plowshares on Swiftspear. Don't really care about that. That means that we don't have any choices to make with our prowess now. We can just hold up our Searing Blazes to be most effective. So they're going to play this island we know about, and they're probably going to... They might go for the combo here. If they've got a counter spell, and they've got the pieces, then it's pretty much sewn up. Alright, so now we're in the we have no persistence source of damage part of the game. So we are going to get royally ruined here. Okay, so we have double Searing Blaze, so we're not dying to the combo in the near future. But our opponent's life total is very high. This is a good example of why I don't want the Leylines in, because our opponent, their life total would be a lot safer if we've got these 4 draws in our deck that don't actually do any damage. And like, yeah, the Searing Blaze doesn't look great on this empty board, but we're fine against creatures, which is how they win the game. So we crack this first for a mountain. We'll cast Searing Blaze on this guy. Now I have a Cephalid Illusionist. And we'll crack this for a mountain. Crack this for a mountain. And try and kill the Illusionist. If they have a counter spell here, we probably have to Fireblast this, otherwise you lose. Not an ideal play for us there, but we need to not lose the game. So now we have no cards in hand and only 2 lands. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand and 4 lands, so we are quite far behind. A Lava Spike. Are we casting this now, or are we saving it for the purposes of prowess and the Surveil? I think we do save it for this turn. Next turn we can reappraise the situation. Right, our opponent might just be coming in for 1 here. Yeah. So if we hit the relevant cards as we go on, then we'll be fine. We just need to dodge our opponent hitting their combo, really. And Urza's Bauble. Let's see what our opponent's working with over there. I think that getting the extra card is more important right now than saving this for prowess or anything. Let's see what our opponent's working with. Nomads and Core. I guess they're holding that for a Brainstorm. I don't think we Lava Spike here. Or do we? No, I think we hold up representing some sort of 2-mana interaction. Like Searing Blaze works even if it's not landfalled. And we might be able to get an additional burn spell this turn. Yeah, like a Lightning Bolt. Okay, so now I'm happy to Lava Spike on our turn, because we already have something to start the Surveil or Prowess chain going. And we only have 2 lands, so we need to be relatively cautious about how we're deploying our mana. Another Lightning Bolt. Alright, let's Lava Spike our opponent. They have 1 card in hand. They can hard cast a Force of Will, but... So if our opponent cracks a fetch land, we have them dead. But if they find their combo, we can interfere with it. So I think we're in a pretty advantageous spot, but to ferry into their creature is probably lights out for us. I think we do fire off a Lightning Bolt this turn, because we might be able to kill our opponent next turn. A Ponder. Sure. They shuffled their libraries. That's good news for us. Our opponent's end step, we will point a Lightning Bolt at their face. A Scalding Tarn. We'll play that, and we will pass. We will not use this Lightning Bolt. If our opponent fetches, obviously we'll use it, but I highly imagine that our opponent is not going to crack their fetch land against the burn deck, putting themselves to 3 life. That doesn't feel like a winning strategy for them. Orim's Chant. Sure, a lot of our burn spells are instant speed, so I don't mind that. We don't get to cast a Channeler, which is annoying, but maybe we do that next turn. We've got some options here. Keep taking our tiny little bits of damage here. Wonder if they've got another Orim's Chant. I don't think they should use a chant like that. I think they should use it in their upkeep, but we have them somewhat scared here. So we will deploy this Channeler. So we have a Price of Progress, which is lethal. We also have this lightning bolt to interfere with their combo. I think it's better if they do have like a counter spell than untap and combo us. We don't want to get caught by that. Sure, I don't mind that. Like if we try and price of progress in response there, then we'll be in trouble because our opponent might have the combo in hand. We don't have any more lands to fetch. Absolute punish there. Yikes. I guess we lightning bolt our opponent. We're going to hold up the price of progress. Okay, so fetch land is off. So they can't hard cast a Force of Will. They can't pitch cast a Force of Will. Do we draw in our Barbarian Ring to play around days? We have a Searing Blaze. I think we can wait for this one. We want to cast back-to-back spells if our opponent's got something like a Daze. Searing Blaze for 1. Alright, we got the game. So, in game 3, do we want these Leylines? We saw how awkward they can be. I'm not convinced that's where we would need to be with our sideboard indecisions. Now, it can definitely come back to bite us, but we've got some removal spells. Now, you could argue that maybe we want like 1 instead of a Bauble. And if it's done our opening hand, great. But then we're less likely to draw it. I can kind of get behind that. But it's going to be so bad to draw, though. I think we're just going to rely on our removal. Price of Progress is pretty reasonable here as well. Does decent chunks of damage. Okay, this is a hand that I like. Our opponent's mulligan to 5 cards. This means our removal is more likely to get through their counter shields. If they play turn 1 Shuko or turn 1 Nomads, then we're in a horrible spot where we kind of have to not play one of our creatures in case they kill us on turn 2. Okay, so this is no Nomads. It could be Shuko though. Just a Ponder. Excellent. That's what we want to see. So we can go Monastery Swiftspear with the Bauble. That gets us 2 damage guaranteed and gets us a little bit deeper into our deck. Dragon's Rage Channeler. Is that better? I don't think it is. Not right now. I think I'd rather pressure our opponent with the Swiftspear. It attacks better into things like their 1/2s, their 1/1s that they have. Means we're more likely to find our next land if we play the Channeler there. So I think maybe we are supposed to play the Channeler here and try and get another land. Kind of not what we want. We're going to put this into our graveyard, I think. We are looking for that other land. Let's see what our opponent's working with. A Nomads. Okay. So we have 2 types in our graveyard. Putting a sorcery and an instant shouldn't be very difficult here. Right. So we really want to find a land off the top. That would help us out in a big way. There's a Plains. What are we going to see from our opponent? Nothing. So they're going to try and do the combo all in 1 turn. We didn't draw a thing, so now we have to hold up these lightning bolts. Yeah, we're kind of having a bit of mana trouble with this deck already, which is awkward. We have a decision to make about whether or not we lightning bolt in our opponent's end step to try and find another land. I think we have to try and execute our game plan and do that. If we can put a sorcery or a creature into the bin as well, that will give us a 3/3, which is going to be a reasonable amount of pressure. It's going to be... okay, so they're not able to combo this turn, so we're just going to lightning bolt them and get our Surveil. We don't really want this Bauble again. We're looking for the land. I think we have to be disciplined about that, even though, yes, it can give us some prowess on our Swiftspear. I think every time we don't find a land, our opponent gets to develop in a much better way than we do. Again, we can't attack here. Our opponent's got 3 cards in hand. They did not shuffle off their Ponder before. I think we just have to pass and try and lightning bolt their creature if they do it. But we can't end step lightning bolt either. So we're just kind of getting hampered by our mana. We could have deployed a creature there, but if they have the combo, we just immediately lose. They're cracking their Misty Rainforest. Now the thing is, if they don't have that combo and we've basically just given them another turn, it's pretty awkward. But they kept off their Ponder. So there's a Nomads. Alright. There's an Illusionist. They have 1 card in hand. What is it? Is it a Daze? It's a Flusterstorm. Alright, so that's game over, I think. So yeah, we're pretty unlucky. If we'd have drawn a second land, I think we have that game sewn up, because that would also give us Fireblast as an emergency thing. We'd have more pressure. We wouldn't have been firing that lightning bolt off to find lands, so we'd have had 2 lightning bolts as well. So we just kind of got messed up by our own mana base more than anything. I think we were odds on to win that game. We just couldn't find our second land. Statistically unlikely. We went through a quarter of our deck, but there we are. On to round 2. Alright, we're into round 2. We have a similar sort of start to the one that didn't get there last time, but I think we will keep it again. Our opponent's mulligan to 6. Like, we should be finding a land, and we can play on 1 land for a couple of turns. Now, we don't want to be flooding out. That's really bad with burn. Much rather have some land. Like, you'd much rather be trying to draw into lands than trying to draw into spells a lot of the time. Right, Delver of Secrets. Mishra's Bauble. Okay. So we're looking at the Grixis Delver deck, which is quite popular right now. I think it's very good as well. Okay. That wasn't one of the things we wanted. Let's go and get ourselves a mountain. Let's cast a Swiftspear, I think, here. Again, it's 2 damage either way. Let's get a chunk of damage in. Our opponent is a Thoughtseize deck, so I'm not going to fire this off yet. I'm going to fire it off in their turn. So they're going to see the card they're about to draw. So let's see what they have off their Delver. And Brainstorm. We're going to have a look at their hand now. Mystic Sanctuary. Okay, that's not really one they want in their hand at this stage of the game. The reason we do that there is because we don't draw a card to get Thoughtseize, and also we get to see their hand before they draw that Brainstorm, so we're guaranteed to get an additional piece of information. Very much like to find a land here, though. There's the Brainstorm. I suspect this Mystic Sanctuary is getting put away here. But this Price of Progress is going to be pretty tasty here. I think we're just going to assume that Mystic Sanctuary is not in their hand, because that'd be a very weird place to keep it. Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay. Our opponent is doing the beatdown much better than we are. Scalding Tarn. Okay. So what does this mean for us? I think we can deploy some creatures here. Let's play the Swiftspear. I think we still just want the Goblin Guide here. Just days worthy or not? It is days worthy. Are they going to flip their Channeler into a 3/3? They are. Okay, so we can't even attack. What a disaster. Okay. This is a pretty good example of why people aren't playing Burn. Or haven't been playing Burn for a while. Like, the Delver style decks are just much better because they just do repeatable damage with their 1-drops. That is more than we're doing. And they actually have some interference they can run with counter spells. Right, so they're lightning bolt one of our guys. Just getting absolutely clowned on over here. We did find a second land though, so there is that. So if we just suspended that Rift Bolt, we could have not got dazed by anything. That might have been an interesting play to make. And that would have not turned the Channeler on. That's something to think about, isn't it? Okay, a Channeler of our very own. Alright. So Price of Progress is going to be a lot of damage if we can get there, but I think we'll suspend this and go to attacks. Get our 1 massive point of damage in. So our Dragon's Rage Channeler will be a 3/3 when the Rift Bolt goes into our graveyard. But we are dead to Lightning Bolt here. They've already used 1, but that doesn't mean they can't have another. Knight's Whisper. Okay, they're putting themselves to 13. Interesting. At least looking for a Lightning Bolt to finish the game off. Oh no, just a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay. So if we take out their blocker here, that's going to guarantee us it's going to be similar amounts of damage, right? So would I like to draw this card this turn? No, I would not. I would like to draw a land this turn, so we can Skewer the Critics. A Barbarian Ring. Okay. So this will put us to 1, and then the Barbarian Ring. Yeah, we're kind of jamming ourselves up here, haven't we? So we do them 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're 1 damage off. So if we attack with just these 2, and then do our Spectacle. So this will be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So with the damage from the Barbarian Ring on the stack, we're going to cast Price of Progress. Because this is a triggered ability, right? No, it's not, actually. It's not like City of Brass. Yeah, I think we might have punted this one slightly. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 1 damage off. We were too hasty to play out a Barbarian Ring here. Is there a way that we can get around this? They're not going to crack any fetch lands on our turn. I guess we can draw the game? It's not really what I was aiming for. They have a daze. Okay, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. So we were right to try and play around the daze, but it didn't quite work for us. Alright, we nearly drew a game. Doesn't happen very often. So, against Delver, we just want these Searing Blazes in. What do we want out here is the question. Not a massive fan of Rift Bolt, but if our opponent's bringing in Counterbalance, that's going to be pretty gross for us. I think we've got the time for the Rift Bolts to come off suspend. We don't have any artifact hate in this list either. Normally you see Smash to Smithereens. Like, it's not relevant in this matchup, but it's just something I thought I'd mention. Sure, we'll keep this and we'll be the Delver player, I guess. We'll go turn 1 Channeler and we'll get ourselves some Scryage. Opponent's mulligan to 5, that's pretty good news. Let's cast this Bauble. Let's have a little Surveil, see what we're working with. A Lightning Bolt, that's got to go into the graveyard, it's not a land. Play another one of these. That is a land, so we'll leave that on top. Then we'll pass the turn. We'll crack one of these in our opponent's turn. What are they about to draw? A Mishra's Bauble of their very own. Are they going to play a Dragon's Rage Channeler and do the same as we did? There's a Channeler. So the question is, are we using this Bauble just to draw another card, or are we using it to scry with our fetch land? The fact that we are definitely cracking our fetch land means that we're probably going to surveil off of... We're probably just going to do this now. All the Baubles. Okay, the Flooded Strand on top of our opponent's library. So this will be the third type when we have our land. Okay, so now we have drawn a load of lands. Interesting. So we play this because we want a land in our graveyard. We'll crack this for a mountain. Deploy a Swiftspear. Lava Spike our opponent's face. Even if they counterspell this, it should be okay for us. Searing Blaze, put it on top of our library, please. Get attacks and get potentially 5 damage in here. Next turn we have Lightning Bolt plus Searing Blaze. A Brainstorm. Sure. Our opponent needs a little bit of help. I think we are in a pretty good spot. Right, there's a Flooded Strand we knew about. Take our 3 damage. That's not going to be important, I don't think. It might be. It might come down to little chip shots, but I think it's more going to be a case of, do they get to Murktide region and just stop all of our aggro or not before we get them low enough, and do we draw enough burn spells afterwards? Searing Blaze that we knew we were drawing. A Force of Will. Pitching a Daze. Sure. I think we will hit their Dragon's Rage Channeler here, as much as I don't want to. So we have 3 damage on board from the Barbarian Ring plus the Monastery Swiftspear. So we just need to find a 3-point burn spell, which our deck is very good at doing. It's the main thing our deck does, so let's see if we can find it. We're going to keep this land in hand in case we draw a Searing Blaze type effect. Okay, so now we need to find a little bit more damage. Yep, so we're going to keep this in our hand and just pass a turn so that we can Searing Blaze a creature they play. Then we just need to find 1 more point of damage from somewhere. Ideally, they'll play a creature that we can actually kill with our Searing Blaze. That would be wonderful. I don't think we need to crack the Barbarian Ring yet either. A Chain Lightning. Our opponent doesn't have red right now, so I'm just going to fire this off around a daze. Alright, they're scooping it up. Okay, I don't think we need to change anything else. We're just going to run it back and see if we can get there. I think the play and draw is pretty important in this one. Oh my god, our hand looks like a normal deck here. Alright, we'll keep this. We can Channeler into removal spell, into Price of Progress, and just try and get the beat down with the Channeler. Now they will have Lightning Bolts for our guy. It's just a given, unfortunately. Right, I don't expect Stifle out of the Grixis Delver decks. It's certainly possible, but it's not what I'm expecting. Let's go for a Channeler, and we get the immediate Bauble Surveil as well. So even if they blow this up, we get at least some value. Skewer the Critics. We've that on top, I think. And our opponent is a Orcish Bowmasters deck, so we probably want to fire this off now. It's like playing around Thoughtseize or playing around Bowmasters. Thoughtseize is not going to be in their deck at this point, I don't think, but it would be game 1. But now we get to draw this before we have to worry about Bowmasters. So next time we can Chain Lightning and Skewer, and that should go a long way to... We can't Chain Lightning into the Volcanic, unfortunately, because they can then get us back. So that's kind of an annoyance there. I don't just want to... Because they can just copy this and get a free spell to hit our guy. That's a frustrating one, isn't it? Let's attack. So I think we're just going to hold up this Searing Blaze. We can always fire off a Lightning Bolt or whatever. Our opponent probably doesn't have any basics, possibly 1 island. So its Price of Progress represents a lot of damage. Let's try and Lightning Bolt them at end step. Another Chain Lightning. This will make our guy into a 3-3. Oh wow, they're just scooping it up. I wonder what their hand was. Yeah, we're 1-1. Felt pretty good in the rounds we won, but I'm not sure what our opponent's hand was that they're keeping it here. So, interesting. Alright, let's go on to round 3. This is an annoying hand because we don't have any permanent source of damage. We have 2 redraws though. Not a massive fan of what's going on over here. I don't think we can throw this away though. I think we keep. If our opponent shows us anything that could be... our opponent's deck could have Orcish Bowmasters in, which means we probably have to just pop these 2 Baubles straight away. Because we don't want to give them creatures that are big enough to tussle with us. They shuffled their library. Interesting. Okay, we've been very rewarded on this first turn here. We get to play a DRC. We can play out this Bauble. I don't think we want a second Fireblast play into our graveyard. Let's have a look at our opponents. This might give us more information. Alluring. Okay, that gives us more information about the sort of things we want to keep here. Chain Lightning. This is a sorcery speed spell is the problem. I don't think we want that. We've already got 2. And let's have a look at the top card of our opponent's library. An Abrupt Decay. Okay, so we're probably losing our Channeler. That's an annoyance. Alright, we're on all the sorceries here. Do they have a black source? Or do they keep an Island Ponder hand hoping to get there? Not a black source. That is interesting. So we have an instant in Fireblast, so we need to put a land in the graveyard somehow. So let's chain lightning our opponent and see if we can find that land. Monastery Swiftspear is a creature, so that will work too. So put this into our graveyard. We now have a big creature. We can go to attacks. Attack for 3. An Ice Fang. This one does not have Death Touch. Are they taking a chump block here? Or are they holding out? If they've got another Ice Fang and a land, then they're probably inclined to hold back and at least have Death Touch. But we'll see what they have. 3 damage in the bank. Let's suspend this Rift Bolt and hope they don't have Teferi in their deck. Because you don't get to cast suspended spells because of Teferi. A Brainstorm. Sure. Feels like our opponent's looking for that black source, as well as just more mana to get up to Allurin. Alright, so they got Fetch. They now have the ability to kill our Dragon's Rage Channeler with an Abrupt Decay. That we know about. Alright, they just got Fatal Push instead. Shoot our opponent for 3. A Lava Spike. So we have a Rift Bolt here. We can go Chain Lightning our opponent. Chain Lightning our opponent. Lava Spike our opponent. Do I think they've got a counter spell here? I guess we wait to see if they try and go off. Because if we get another turn, we can Barbarian Ring and Fireblast. And that way we can play around a counter spell. Uro. I think in response we will try and kill them. Alright. We got there with some burn. Alright. So Uro. Not a big fan of that. They have a lot of creatures. So we want some Searing Blazes here. I think we want Rift Bolts. Uro is definitely a problem for us with the persistent life gain. And I don't really think we have a reasonable answer to it. Leyline in the Void. So this can stop them casting the back half of Uro. But if we draw one of these after our opening hand, we're already down 3 damage. So the 3 damage they would have gained off of casting the Uro is already gone. So basically this is only a thing to play around the attack of the Uro for the most part. And I don't think it's worth it. I think we just run it back, to be honest. But with the Searing Blazes over the Rift Bolts. So we have a little bit more interaction. Okay. We're keeping a lot of one-landers in this league. Can certainly put us in the bin. But Price of Progress is going to be excellent against their 4-colour mana base. They might only be a 3-colour build. Amazing, they started off with a Prismatic Vista when I have the double Price of Progress hand. Sad times. Okay, so at least we get a redraw here, and we get +1 damage from our Swiftspear. We'll crack this now in case of Orcish Bowmasters. Ice Fang, sure. Good to know. Searing Blaze is probably going to be pretty good against one of those little guys. Yep, so just holding up the Ice Fang here. Another Bauble. It's not really what I'm down for, is it? So if we Chain Lightning our opponent here, they get to block some damage. I think that's okay. So they can put the Ice Fang in. If they're running Dazes, they might play the Ice Fang first to see if they can draw a Daze. But this is not going to be Death Touching right now. So are they going to want to trade it? They didn't last time, and I think that was a mistake. Yeah, so they're getting the... Sorry, not trading it, throwing it under the bus to save themselves. Right, let's have a look what they're working with over there. Ice Fang, okay. Yeah, so they could have had the second Ice Fang for the Death Touch next turn. Alright, we can have the Searing Blaze for the Ice Fang. There's a Brainstorm. These Price of Progresses look terrible right now. Fetch lands though, they're a little bit of extra damage. Don't hate that. We also are now in the territory where we have to worry about our opponent's Allurin just winning the game for them. Is that something we can realistically play around is another question. So if we Searing Blaze the guy, we get 6 damage in this turn. Or do we have to hold up the Lightning Bolt? If we're holding up the Lightning Bolt, how are we winning this game? Let's see what they have on top of their library. Snow-covered Swamp. These Price of Progresses probably aren't winning us this game, are they? So I think we have to Searing Blaze the Ice Fang just so we got the repeatable damage coming through. Oh my god. I accidentally passed through my turn there. That's always good, isn't it? We need every little margin we have here. They're going to play this Ice Fang at end step and we're still going to Searing Blaze it. Not a massive fan of this play. But I think it's the right play. The wrong play was accidentally clicking through our attack step. Right, we're getting a Daze that we can't pay for. I don't mind that. That means they can't Allurin us this turn. Right, Chain Lightning. We have 9 damage in hand, which is pretty... An Uro. That's pretty bad for us, obviously. We don't really have any way to deal with this, so we're just going to have a bad time and hope they play enough non-basics that we can just do a massive Price of Progress nonsense on them. I honestly think I prefer Surgical to Life from the to Leyline here. I would have boarded in Surgicals, but not the Life from the Leylines. Why do I keep saying Life from the Ley? Okay, so our opponent is going to have an Uro next turn. We've got to hope that they can put in loads and loads of non-basic lands. So if we kill this and we kill this, That costs us 6 damage. So I think we are just going to the face here. Let's give him another lightning bolt here. Right, opponent's on 3, so they can go up to 6. So if they play a non-basic, put an Uro into play, put another non-basic in, then our price of progress might get there. But it's going to be awkward. That's a non-basic, but it fetches a basic, so not pleased. Alright, that's a non-basic though. And Urza's Bauble. Alright, let's see what they have in hand. A Brainstorm. Okay. We might be able to get there. If they play a land before they attack, or we draw a lightning bolt, we would have had a chance there. Alright. It's going to be a big chunk of damage. So it's going to take them up to 9. Please put in a non-basic land, opponent. They did put in a non-basic, but not how I wanted them to. We're still getting 6 damage off the first one because they have to crack both of their things to take less damage. They haven't actually played a land yet, so they could just play a non-basic here. We might be able to get them. We are dead net on our next turn, so kind of all in on this next turn. Right, I go to 8. Another Uro. That's a bit rude, isn't it? If they put in a non-basic though, then it kind of is a bit of a wash. It's a non-basic. They're cracking. Oh, they're going to cast this other Uro. 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay. They've given us a chance here. Weirdly. So they're going to play this one just to gain an extra 3 life this turn. Which is annoying, but we might be able to beat this. Right. There's a Misty Rainforest. Go on, crack it. Crack it for a ponder or something. Oh my god, they are. Oh my god. A big old price of progress coming in their way. Force of Will. Sure. We have lethal now. If they don't have a counterspell. We should have drawn a lightning bolt instead of that lava spike. They shuffle their library. Goblin Guide isn't the 1. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Exact, well, not exactly. I'm on 1 life here. Let's see if they have a daze or something. Oh, we got there. All right. That was pretty tight. We got. They cast 2 Uros. They cast Uro twice in that turn after attacking with an Uro, but we still managed to get through. Price of progress is pretty good. I think they made the mistake of playing all these. They could have played that turn in a way where we didn't have that much of an option. I think when you're playing out the Uro in a matchup like this, you need to work out if the life you're gaining, if you're putting the lands in, is that going to offset it or not, right? Because basically every time they put in a land, it pretty much offset the life gain they were getting. So yeah, we're 2 and 1. Let's go to round 4. I want to play for round 4. We have no persistent source of damage, but we do have a lot of damage. So here goes nothing, I guess. We'll lead out on an Arid Mesa. Turn this into a mountain. Let's let them know what's up. Got the lava spike. There's an island and a pond. Basic island, without even fetching for it, doesn't make me feel great about this price of progress in my hand. Dragon's Rage Channeler. Big fan of this one. I think we want to keep... Do we think our opponent's going to have Wasteland, or do you think our opponent's going to have creatures we want to... are they going to have a deck that makes us want to scry using a Bauble later on? I think we are just going to play this one out and not expose our Barbarian Ring to Wasteland. Going to preemptively fetch here because we're definitely doing this. So we're going to cast ourselves a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Then we're going to Chain Lightning our opponent. Try and flip our Channeler if possible. Rift Bolt is a sorcery. I don't really want to draw a Rift Bolt either though. Do I want to draw a Rift Bolt? It's 3 damage. It's not that much. I think we'll put it into our graveyard, try and fuel the Barbarian Ring. Alright. So we need an artifact or an instant. Sorry, well we've got 2 types in our graveyard right now, so we need 2 more types. Just getting ploughed here, I assume. Prismatic Ending, same difference. Price of Progress. That is a very stinky Magic the Gathering card right now. Alright, a non-basic. We have a shock in our hand now. That's good. A Teferi Time Raveler. Okay. A Bloodstained Mire. We just have to pass here. Is our opponent on breakfast, or are they on a control-y style deck? A Brainstorm. Sure. Alright, Prismatic Vista, not the land we want to see our opponent play. Where are your Tundras? We need to draw some things that aren't land. That'd be a good start here. A Bauble. It's not a land. See what we're up against. Swords to Plowshares. Okay, so they can plow their own creatures for life. That's the thing they're into. Our Barbarian Ring is turned on now because we can sacrifice the land, and that'll give us the 7th card for Threshold. Price of Progress. Why are you doing this to me? Okay, now they're doing 4 damage. I don't mind cracking them off. Let's crack this. Can get ourselves a mountain. Let's deploy this. Let's just try one of these out for size. I really want the Surveil here, so 4 damage is fine for 1 card. I'll take that. That's a Fireblast rate. I don't really want this Bauble, so this can go into our graveyard. Looking for damage now. Or recurring threats, but that might be difficult here. Hardcast Force of Will. Okay. So we're going to get our creature source to Plowshares on our opponent's turn. Well, they can do it instant speed, but they want to do it while we don't have mana up so that we get prevented from doing any scries. Surveils. We might do it in our upkeep, but no, I guess not. Let's play this Swiftspear. Let's cast on the Price of Progress. A Rift Bolt. Sure, I'll leave that on top of my library for now. It is 3 damage. Are we going to get 4 damage off of this? Force Negation, Pitching, Brainstorm. Sure, we'll go to attacks. We are going to ignore our opponent's Teferi here. It's got way too many counters. We're going to lose at least one of these to Source to Plowshares. If I have Snapcaster Mage, we're going to lose a lot more. Okay, they have an instant speed Supreme Verdict. A little bit rude. Our opponent might be more inclined to get non-basics now. We've gone through 2 of our Price of Progress. They might not think we're going to have more. But we've got a surprise for them. There's that Rift Bolt that we knew was coming. Let's point this at our opponent's face. Yeah, we can't cast it through Teferi, so we have to cast it. We can't suspend it through Teferi, we just have to cast it. Alright, so we've got 4, 8, 9, 10 damage in hand now. So if our opponent doesn't gain life, we do have enough damage to win the game. Now, there's a lot of ifs and buts. There's counter spells, there's creatures that get plowed that they have. So things can definitely go wrong for us here. It's going to be a big shark, which is going to represent a big chunk of life if they require it later on. We can go for the win next turn, but they will have to plow their own guy, which should be annoying. A Chain Lightning. Let's fire off a Chain Lightning at our opponent. Let's fire off a Price of Progress. Force of Will. Okay. So we do still have lethal damage, but the Source to Plowshares will interrupt that and give them 4 life. A Narset. That doesn't really bother us here. If they have a wheel, that could be annoying, like Days Undoing. A Force of Will. Okay. That is annoying. I take it back, Narset. You're horrible. Why are you so mean? This could be a tough assignment, this one. A Lava Spike. Just good enough for your counterspell? Go on. It wasn't. Interesting. So we've shut off fetch lands. I don't think we're fire blasting here. I think we want to try and do multiple spells in one turn. What are you going to find? What additional horrors await me? Just a ponder. Okay. They shuffled off their ponder. Alright. They feel the need to draw a card there. Pretty incredible given the amount of cards they already have. Another Narset. Going to find some more horrible things. Now we get to play spells when we want to play spells, which is interesting. We are trying to work around this plow. It could have gone away with a Brainstorm, I think, a while back, but I don't know if it has. It's going to be relatively tight margins, but our opponent does have a whole bunch of cards in hand. We might be reluctant to... Alright, let's see if we can get the plow out on their guy and save ourselves a bit of life here. Right, no fetch lands for our opponent, no Force of Will, unless they plow their creature first. See what they're discarding here. A Prismatic Ending, yeah, that seems reasonable. A Chain Lightning. So I think we have this one. Unless they... Well, it depends how good their hand is, really. They have to plow their own guy. They got second plow. Because they can't Force of Will. They do have a second plow. Okay. So now they can Force of Will. What are they going to pitch here? Pitching another Force of Will. Okay. Well, there's still this other Chain Lightning hitting their face. So that puts them to 1. So fetch lands and Force of Will are off. All of our creatures are lethal. Although I don't really want to try and win this one with creatures. Doesn't feel like a safe bet. A ponder. So they're going to fire that off and try and find something. The amount of time it's going to take them to actually close this game out means that we've got so many draws. And how many forces have we got through? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got through all of their Force of Wills and one of their Force of Negations. They can't Mystic Sanctuary it back until they play a creature, because they need to plow their creature to gain some life. So I think we're in a weirdly good spot considering how many cards our opponent has. A Brainstorm, we're just going to keep fetching around. What are we looking at here? We're going to draw something we can't cast. That's what it feels like. Well, we can cast that. This is each opponent can draw no more than 1 card each turn. So we can fire this off and draw on our opponent's turn. Do they have good old-fashioned counterspell? I don't think you use it on the Bauble here. Let's see what they're drawing. A Prismatic Vista. That's a dead draw, isn't it? This ponder they've already fired off, haven't they? So they got 6 cards in hand on their turn. We know one of them, or 2 of them, sorry. One of them is unplayable for them right now. Right, we have a card that wins the game for us in our hand right now. Can we go to our turn without our opponent gaining any life? Let's see what they find. Is it Force of Negation? Okay. So that's no longer an option. We want to try and double spell when we do our Lava Spike turn. This one also doesn't cost them life to pitch, so it's a bit awkward for us. But if we draw something like a Goblin Guide or a Monastery Swiftspear, Force of Negation won't hit it. Now, do they have any removal spells in hand? Maybe. They have a Shark that can gobble something up as well? Also maybe. See what they're working with. The Force of Negation. I don't think they have 2 Force of Negations in their hand. These decks normally run 2 Force of Negation, 4 Force of Will. So I think we will keep trying. Right, we want to tax our opponent on back-to-back turns so we can Lightning Bolt them at their end step and then untap and Lava Spike them. A Brainstorm? Sure. I imagine they're getting rid of this Prismatic Vista. Although, how are they going to shuffle their library is the question. They would need to cast a Ponder or something, so maybe it will come back again. Flooded Strand. Okay, that doesn't really do it for them, does it? Because we only have 1 land, we will cast as Lightning Bolt end step and get the Force of Negation out of our opponent's hand. Minor Misstep. Okay, we did not get the Force of Negation out of our opponent's hand. Minor Misstep, pretty good against us. Again, we're looking at trying to double spell here, so not quite there. Prismatic Vista, so it did come back. All right. Okay, now we have 2 of these. We're going to fire 1 up here, get the Force of Negation out of our opponent, untap, do it again. Okay. Double Minor Misstep. A Bauble. I guess that's why they were pausing on the Baubles before. What's on top of their library? A Brainstorm. I don't think we're firing off the Lava Spike here. Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay. A Brainstorm. Sure. This has been a genuinely interesting game, which is not something you can always say for the old Burn matchups. I'm surprised they didn't keep one of these fetch lands in their hand to throw away with the Brainstorm at a later date, unless they've just got more in hand. So that if they get to actually gain some life at some point, they can find some lands or whatever. But having your opponent on 1 is Day's Undoing. Okay, we only get 1 card, but well, we didn't get any cards because we had our Bauble, didn't we? Did you draw a thing? They had the ability to stop that with their Force of Negation that we knew about. So I'm very surprised they went for the wheel there. Like maybe they saw that we were building up cards and thought we were going to get them with a flurry, which is what we were trying to do. We did put our opponent in an awkward spot. So how are we going to beat this matchup? I think we probably just run it back. Price of Progress doesn't feel great, but it's not unplayable. Searing Blaze does not look remotely playable, I don't think, in this one. No, I think we're just resubmitting. This hand looks pretty nice. Got some good damage, got some nice filtering going on. Let's see what they lead off on. If they don't tap this, I think we're playing the Channeler on 1 and just getting the immediate Surveil. I could misstep this. That's a pretty good misstep target. Don't know how many they're going to have in their 75. Let's get a Surveil on. A Goblin Guide. Do I want to try and jam a load of goblins at our opponent? I don't think so. I think I want to put this into our graveyard here to fuel our Channeler. And we will draw a card here. A Basic Island. Just going to get ploughed at end step. That's fine. We already got some value off it. Oh no. No play from our opponent on turn 1. That's good news. Okay, so shuffling away the card we've seen. And they're getting a non-basic land. And we drew a Price of Progress. Okay, it's all coming up Millhouse. Flooded Strand. An ending, sure. Price of Progress. Looking forward to playing you later. Let's cast this Swiftspear. Spike our opponent. Get a little prowess going. So if they've got a plow, they'll do it now because we gain 1 life instead of 2. Alright, and they don't have a misstep, so they're probably going to counter our spike here. Yeah, that's sure. That's fine. We get 2 damage in here. Surprised I didn't misstep our Swiftspear. I think over turns it probably ends up better. It depends on what their hand is like. If they've got more removal spells, then obviously it's better to counter the burn spells for them. Narset. It wasn't Counterbalance. Counterbalance probably beats us. Let's have a look at their revealed zone. What are they going to have? An answer for our guy next turn. That's fine. And it's more important to get some damage in now. So I can turn this into a 3 damage spell, or I can try and go for a higher return. Like we're definitely Lightning Bolt in this turn because we get to Lightning Bolt for 4 damage this turn because of the Swiftspear. It's just a case of whether we want to Price of Progress for 3. I don't think we do. Then we can get more damage out of this. Like I'll fire off Price of Progress for 4, but I think 3 is too little. I'm counting as 3 because of the prowess in case. Our opponent is going to have to play some more lands at some point. And when they do, now if they play a fetch land into a Tundra, we have lethal in hand. That's not including our Swiftspear who can deal some damage. Although Swiftspear probably getting Prismatic Ending this turn. A Prismatic Vista, annoying, but it will ping them for 1 at least. Let's see what they're going to find with their Narset here. A misstep. That's a pretty good one. We're going to have our guy pendinged. Sure. Now it's over to us. A Chain Lightning, you say. Are we firing this out into the open misstep? That's an interesting question. We do have to play around this misstep at some point. I think we'll get it out of the way now, because our opponent can end up with something like a volcanic island and a mountain, and use that to fire back our chain lightning. And also our opponent might be doing a wheel at some point, and having cards in hand when that happens isn't really going to help us out. We don't want to get our day undone and just be sat in there where we could have at least tried to interact with our opponent, get cards out of their hand or whatever. No extra land here is pretty sad for our price of progress. A Monastery Swiftspear. Can I have this? They can make a 2/2 shark. If they do, I think we cast the price of progress here. Just a plow, that's fine. We need our opponent to play more non-basics, please. What is this? 4th Eorlingus. So this is going to give them the monarchy and bash us for 4. They have to attack with both because we are representing potential Barbarian Ring here. Sure, I think we take this. Don't really have the most amount of choice here. Sure, they're going to be drawing a whole bunch of cards. This could be a little difficult to beat. This turns on our Barbarian Ring. We need our opponent to play some non-basics before... okay, maybe they get Chandra here. I think they're just going to get basic planes if they do crack this. It's a fairy. I don't think we're trying to Barbarian Ring this turn. Like, we can crack our fetch to give us up to 7 and then try Barbarian Ring. I think that's where we want to be. I think we're just doing our thing here. Now, they don't have a land for Days Undoing in our upkeeps. That's something at least. Scalding Tarn, we are flooding out somewhat over here. I don't think this price of progress dealing only 2 damage is going to be worth it. Yeah, these guys are certainly going to do a reasonable job on our life total as time goes by. We need to not brick into more lands here. We don't have that many lands left to draw at this point, but I'm sure we'll find some. A Rift Bolt. Okay, let's cast this, targeting our opponent. Force of Negation, sure. So these are going to kill us in short order. So we don't have a second... We don't have another mountain, so Scalding Tarn doesn't actually do anything. But we do need to pay 1, but then if we cast the price of progress, we die. Interesting. Because of the human knight tokens. We need our opponent to play... Well, I think we will fire off our Barbarian Ring this turn. And we need our opponent to play a non-basic land. That is our strategy. Our opponent did not play a non-basic land. That's not great for us. We can sacrifice this if we're going to be casting Price of Progress. Let's try for this. Hard cast Force of Will. Let's crack this. No targets. Let's go for Price of Progress. I'll crack their Flow Strand for a basic plains. And then we're dead. Okay, got an island, sure. Alright. Does this make me want Searing Blazes for the purposes of hitting their little tokens? Maybe it's going to be better than the Price of Progress. So if we keep the game going longer, it's probably okay for us. But I don't know if we want loads of these. Not convinced. I think we'll do a split. Right, we're on the play though for the last round, which for the last game. Okay, we've got a pretty serviceable hand here. We can turn 1 Goblin Guide, turn 2 Channeler, double Surveil. That feels quite strong. Our opponent kept 6 cards. Let's make the guide. Let's go to attacks. That's a fairy. Okay. That's something to worry about later. Gives us some information about what we do with our Rift Bolts though. A Tundra. Excellent start from our opponent. Love to see it. We'll go to attacks. Get our 2 damage in. Swords to Plowshares. It's a pretty good one. Okay. This Goblin Guy's got 4 damage in. That's about as much as you can expect. Let's go and get a mountain. Let's remember that we only have 5 mountains in, so we don't play a fetch land we don't need to like we did in the last game. Let's play a Dragon's Rage Channeler. A misstep, sure. Let's play a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Let's put a creature in our graveyard. This puts an artifact in our graveyard. We just need to find an instant. We don't want this land, put this into our graveyard. We know our opponent's drawing this Swords to Plowshares, but I guess we could have drawn later on. Seems unlikely we're going to want a Fireblast or something, but weird things happen, right? Okay, we do have an instant, but it's one that doesn't really have any targets as of yet, which is one of the reasons I didn't want to play it. But I feel the way that they try and close this game out is going to be those little tokens, so sure, we're having our guy pending. Let's cast a Swiftspear. Let's play a Bauble, play a land, crack the Bauble, Force of Will, sure. If they make one of these 4th Eorlingus tokens, or whatever they're called, we can force them into using the Force of Will on our Searing Blaze. That's the thing we want to do. But we'll see what we draw here. It might impact what we do. Oh, a Lightning Bolt. That's excellent. A Brainstorm. Sure. Our opponent's also got a lot less time on the clock than us. Not expecting one of these burn games to go this long. I suppose we do have lots of draws that are live against decks that struggle to close the game. Well, that's a non-basic land, isn't it? Let's Lava Spike our opponent here. Hydro Blast. Sure. Let's go to attacks. Source of Plowshares on top. Let's see if we can get some more damage off of our Monastery Swiftspear. Right, our opponent is dead on board, pretty much. Now, we know they've got 2 Swords of Plowshares now. So I suspect one of these is going to get pointed at our Bauble. Sure, I'll have that. So now we're getting punished for this Searing Blaze being in our hand. Always the Swords of Plowshares. So we could do this the other way around in case we give them a card off of the Goblin Guide. I'm going to take 2 from this. Okay, so Barbarian Ring is an uncounterable... I think they only have 2 left. Yes, so Barbarian Ring is an uncounterable way of killing them now. Pretty good. Alright, we have a guy. Let's play a Swiftspear. Force of Will, pitching to Fairy Time Raveler. Sure. I'm going to go to attacks. This is going to get them a Source of Plowshares. Okay, so they've got Ponder on top of their library. We're going to cast this Lightning Bolt in our opponent's turn in case they have Force of Negation. We've got 1 card in hand and we know it's... I think it's another... I think, no, have we gone through the plows? I can't remember. Alright, we are 3-1 after 4 rounds. So we've got a positive record locked in with Burn. So that's pretty spicy. Let's go to the final round and see if we can make it 4-1. On the play for the final round, our opening hand is actually good. Nice, let's keep this. So I think we want to push through the damage with the Swiftspear here, rather than filter our draws. I think we're going to go Swiftspear into Bauble. So this guarantees a Lightning Bolt's worth out of this Swiftspear. Oh, it doesn't, I guess. A Solitude. Let's see what else our opponent's working with over there. A Mountain. And what's on top of your library there? Petal. We don't want them to like hard to play something like a Spirit of the Labyrinth and stop our baubles later on. Okay. It's good enough to get 2 cards out of their hand. That's pretty good. Okay, another bauble, so our Dragon's Channel is going to have some food. And a Rift Bolt. Not that exciting, the old Rift Bolt. Pretty bad against the Archons. What we got here? A Chalice of the Void? Chalice of the Void. Alrighty. Dragon's Channeler no longer doing the job. But we'll suspend this. We will suspend this. I think we're going to lose this matchup because we don't have Chalice answers in our deck. It's just not something our deck plays through. So we're just going to have to cut some 1-drops, I think. And board in some Searing Blazes. Yeah, the Lotus Petal that we knew about. So this looks like in classic sort of red-white initiative. Alright, this Chalice on 0 isn't that good that we've gone through so many baubles already. But it does shut off a lot of our plays in our deck now. Like, we don't have 1-drops or 0-drops. We do have these though. We do have to go face here. Because we're not going to win a board stall because we don't have any creatures we can play anymore. So we need to not draw 1-drops. And try to get there. We should have played out one of these 1-drops into the Chalice to turn on our Barbarian Ring. I think that was an error. I don't think it's going to matter. I think we're just going to get absolutely annihilated this game because half of our deck doesn't do anything. And we have no Smash to Smithereens. Seemed like a bold thing to have in a deck, but here we are. Another Barbarian Ring. Okay, we'll cast this into the Chalice to give ourselves Threshold. Okay, so we can put our opponent to 10 at the cost of 2 of our lands going away. We can't really do that because we need to be able to cast Rift Bolt as a 3-drop. We have no access to persistent sources of damage. So our opponent plays some sort of big initiative threat, we're probably just dead. But maybe they'll play out some lands and we'll get to Price of Progress them. Unlikely, but yeah, okay. A Lightning Bolt that we can't cast. Pass the turn. Need to draw like Fireblast and Mountain. Probably be some way towards helping us win this game. Our opponent hasn't played out this plateau we know about because they know we're a Price of Progress deck. They just don't need to. They got this treasure anyway. Surprised they didn't use their Reflection Kiki-Jiki. They're probably going to do it later on. Okay, so we have this. This means we can actually fire off one of these Barbarian Rings. Is it worth killing their Kiki-Jiki here? I think we're going to kill the token. This means they're more likely to commit lands to the board, so our Price of Progress becomes a live draw. We can kill this Reflection in an emergency, but then we're going to be down to just 2 lands. And again, that's 2 damage just gone that we could have had. Okay, Seasoned Engineer, we're not beating that, and they're going to be able to copy it as well. We could have killed the Reflection of Kiki-Jiki in response. I just don't know how we're supposed to deal 14 damage to our opponent. I think we can call it here. Let's not waste our time. Okay, so our deck scoops to Chalice pretty hard. So we're going to board in these Searing Blazes, and we're going to board out some 1-mana spells. What 1-mana spells are we going to board out, is the question. That is an interesting one. It's definitely not Lightning Bolt. possibly Chain Lightning, because it is a bit awkward with their own red mana. And then we'll have the Searing Blazes in instead. But yeah, we're pretty cold to the old Chalice on 1. Normally Smash the Smithereens is something you'd have in your sideboard, but this build doesn't have them. Which, you know, I don't mind, because when I like to build decks, I like to say that I'm going to, know what I'm going to lose to. And rather than trying to lose to that slightly less often, I try and beat the things that are more likely to be a problem. Okay, this is okay. Now, whether or not we should be running Smash the Smithereens, maybe we should. But at least understand the logic of just saying, okay, we're just going to lose to this instead of trying to have our, 4 outer to it. We'll see. Swiftspear, get some damages in. We have a nice selection of mana costs here, at least. So Chalice only blocks 1 card in our hand. We can Searing Blaze a creature if they play one. So if they go like turn 1, Caves of Chaos Adventurer, we can Searing Blaze it and then hopefully take the initiative and maybe get somewhere. Just a non-basic land. Happy to see that one. Let's crack this. It's a pretty good hand right now. We get to go Swiftspear into Lava Spike, turning both our Swiftspears into 2/3s. Quite the damages. Our opponent is an Ancient Tomb deck, so it does stuff. I'm expecting to see a plow, although that might mean they boarded out their chalices, which is interesting. They boarded in their plows. Alright, so we just got some nice damage in there. We no longer have Searing Blaze until we draw another land, but that's fine. Right, we have 4 damage from a Price of Progress. A Fury. Yeah, that's going to kill both of our guys. Are they going to blink this with touch of the thingamajig? If I had any free spell I could cast. Okay, at least they didn't blink it. That's something. Swiftspear. Let's go to attacks. I will fire off the Skewer the Critics if this connects, because we don't know when I'm going to have free mana to cast this. Puts our opponent to 8. So 2 more non-basics and they're dead. Or well, 1 more non-basic and they're dead if they don't play anything. Archon of Emeria. Okay, I would like to draw a land, please. Best draw in our deck is a land. For this turn at least. It was not a land. We can kill this and our opponent for 1 damage. And then this will live because it will be a 2/3 and this will take 1 damage. Is that worth doing? Or are we just playing out this creature here? I think this is where we want to be. If we can find a land next turn, we can have a really strong turn. Another Archon of Emeria. Sure. We're going to attack with 1. They do need to make inroads in our life turn at some point. And Urza's Bauble, you said. Sure, I'll play. That's our spell for the turn, unfortunately. Price of Progress is pretty good. I'll put this on top of the library, because this is lethal damage right now. Let's see what our opponent's working with. Iganjo. This one has to attack. It will trade with one of these, I suspect. Yeah, there you go. We have a Price of Progress we can fire in our opponent's turn. Are they going to get a basic or a non-basic? Probably a basic, but we'll see. Oh, they got a non-basic. Okay, so if they play that Iganjo, they are dead on board. Big fan of our opponent being dead on board. There's the Iganjo. A Solitude. We'll cast this in response. This will kill our opponent. They can't cast any more spells because they're in Archon of Emeria, so we are locked up to win this game. Alright, we're going to the final game of round 5, looking for the 4-1. I think I like how I've sideboarded. I don't really want to change anything. I think we're just going to go for it and hope that we don't get chaliced into the dirt. Our opponent's on the play, so they can just do that, and we just lose. Our hand is pretty 1-drop heavy, but it is a keeper. If we find another land, it's great. If we don't find another land, it's not great, I suppose. But we've got a reasonable spread of mana costs. We do have 3 1-drops, but the rest of the hand isn't. So, considering the curve of our deck, that's actually all right. 2 turns to draw a land. All right, Ancient Tomb into Chalice of the Void on 1. Yep. Okay, so we're going to play some stuff out to start fueling our Barbarian Ring here. A mountain, that's nice. We will cast this into the Chalice. Yep. If we had a Rift Bolt, I would have suspended it instead, but we didn't, so we're just going to be an Archon of Emeria. It's a little bit punished for the Barbarian Ring, but a Lightning Bolts. Yeah, if we'd have played these the other way around, we were in better shape. Alright, so we'll play this out still, and we will go for a Swiftspear into the Chalice and pass. They're going for a Chalice on 2 here. No, they're playing this spell that's probably going to beat us. I don't think we can come back from this, to be honest. Not having an answer for Chalice in the 75 feels pretty rough. A Rift Bolt, you say? Let's suspend this. And we can play another card into the Chalice here. I don't think it matters. In terms of our life totals is only 1 pip of damage, but I guess it might come in later. Our Skewer the Critics is live next turn. Just got to hope they keep tapping this Ancient Tomb. Maybe for stuff that doesn't have a lot of power would be nice, but I suspect we're going to see an initiative creature hit the board this turn. Yeah. So if we can draw a mountain, we can Searing Blaze away one of their guys. This is our only spell of the turn. Yeah, yeah, this is kind of awkward. Right, just has to go to the face, I think. Searing Blaze, that doesn't really do anything. Yeah, if we played out our land slightly differently, we'd probably be on like 11 life now instead. Didn't respect the Archon enough there. Trying to preserve my life total by 1 point, but I don't think that's right. We can ping our opponent for 1, if that's important. Well, we can't do that now, actually, because of our own thing is going to kill us. Yeah, we just got completely blasted by this Chalice. I think we win without the Chalice, but obviously, they've kept a hand. Specifically, with Chalice, they mulliganed to it. All right, so we finished with a 3-2 in the end, with the burn, which is genuinely more impressive than I thought we'd get. I thought we'd be really struggling to get a 3-2, and we were kind of unlucky to not get a 4-1 here. Like the breakfast matchup, the games we lost against them, they had to have 2 copies of both combo pieces in one of the games, and then the other one, they had like 1 turn where they were sort of ripping into it, I think. So again, yeah, we were really close, and we got a little bit unlucky in the games as well in terms of our own mana base. So interesting. Let's talk about the deck. So, do I think Burn is a good deck in Legacy? Honestly, no. But does a build like this have a bit more fighting power than normal, than I would expect from a Burn deck? I do think so. Now, there's definitely some things we tripped up with. So, not being able to cast Fireblast, that sometimes came up. Not having enough lands for our fetches did come up, but wasn't that big a deal. I think if I'd have just kept a better eye on how many fetches we had, it would have been all right. I could have just gone, okay, won't have those. But the fact that we only have 5 mountains means we only get to cast 2 Fireblast in the course of the game. So I think I would probably trade one of these fetch lands out for another mountain, so we have 3 Fireblasts available in our deck in total. I think that would be useful. The Bauble package with the Swiftspears and the Channelers felt pretty good. Having a little bit of information from your opponent is nice, and also we didn't do the scry off of the Bauble thing where you target yourself and then choose whether or not you'll fetch away the card. But we did, get a lot of value with a Channeler. And it did kind of feel like the best thing we could do was turn 1 Channeler, play some Baubles, and then sort of ride that guy. Now, we didn't really get to do that very much, but it did feel like one of the best things in our deck, which is because that's kind of the best thing in arguably the best deck, which is Grixis Delver, or at least one of the best decks. So maybe that's something to think about. Should we just be playing Delver if we're playing Burn? Probably. Is there a more tight version of this deck that we could play? Maybe only 3 Barbarian Rings and have the 6th mountain in that slot instead and keep the fetches the same? That might be better as well. And not having an answer to artifacts did really feel bad here. Now, I understand that we have the cards in our sideboard for the reasons we have them, right? But it didn't feel like we were in an ideal spot sometimes. I would also think that the Surgicals might just be better than Leyline. Yes, Leyline just hammers the graveyard in a big way, but Surgical is something you can actually board in smaller numbers against other decks, like Uro decks. I think, as we showed, you can beat an Uro deck with this deck, but having an ability to strip all those Uros out, even if it's just, if they've got 3 life off of it, that's fine. We can sometimes beat that, especially if they're slower decks. So there's definitely legs on this deck. Would I want to stay as a mono red deck is the question. I think one of the things I've been toying around with was a sort of Death Shadow burn deck using Flame Rift as well to hurt you both. Didn't quite work out in terms of when I've been piecing it together. I couldn't get the pieces to fit in a way that I was happy with. But I would probably play this burn deck again if I had to. I probably wouldn't necessarily choose to play it. But I'd be interested to see sort of further development on this. Not that there's a lot you can really innovate with burn, but it feels like if there was an uncounterable 1-drop would be nice. Or something like that, just to get through some chalices. Yes, we can board in some things for it, but I don't know. It feels like there's something here that's not quite up to the top level of Legacy, but if you jam it enough, you're going to win a decent chunk of games still, because fundamentally what it's doing has some good matchups in Legacy. Slow dirty decks are just going to let you draw enough burn to kill them. And Uro is kind of fallen off a little bit. And all this sort of death touchy 1/1 creatures have fallen off a little bit too, so your guys are more likely to hit, which is nice. So I think there's definitely a little bit of merit to this burn deck. And it definitely looks better than previous iterations, but I don't think it's time to start encouraging your friends to buy into burn to get into legacy yet. I don't think we're at that sort of stage. Right, we could just be a blue-red Delver deck that's heavy on burn. So, you know, have Delver, Channeler, maybe Swiftspear, and then just have, you know, your Chain Lightnings, your Lightning Bolts. But then you also have things like Daze in there, which is really handy, and Force of Will. So you've got a little bit of pushback, and then you can have some cantrips, and, you know, you're kind of away there, and I think that might be a lot stronger just in general than what we're doing here. But the linear strategy of this is difficult for some decks to interact with. Now, we've seen in the last round against the Chalice, the decks that can interact with it, with Chalice or Counterbalance, they just blow you out of the water. And that's just the sad nature of things sometimes. All right, I think we are done with this one today. I hope you enjoyed watching something. I know some of you have been asking in the comments for a burn deck for a long time. We finally found one that I think was good enough. And you can definitely take this to FNMs, although your rounds, well, they might not be that short. We had quite a lot of long ones, actually, didn't we? But I think you're, you know, you can have a lot of fun with this one if that's your sort of jam. All right, remember to like, subscribe, and comment. These things are all important to me, and they help the channel out and cost you nothing apart from a few seconds of your time. So why not do it? And if you're interested in helping me financially, you can become a member of my Patreon. Just give me a couple of quid a month to say thanks for making content. Or you can go up to the higher tier where you get access to articles I write and my in-depth primer of Green-Black Turbo Depths that gets updated every month. All right, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.